Between three nurses and a doctor, find out what matters in Clinic Matters.
And I wonder what someone like you is doing in such a noble profession where so much courtesy is required. Can you attend to this woman?
Because the nurse who has the pilot just gone into prevent her temperature. No planning to tell his wife until the other lady delivers. It's not heartless. Is this our business if your husband impregnates another woman? The only problem I have is with people making silly and grave mistakes, especially in marriage. You are a nurse and not a marriage counselor.
A jealous man that doesn't like sharing some of my personal effects with anybody.
Women are not regarded as personal effects. Flirting time is over.
Can name your progress.
If my husband comes and says, make her no work, I go quickly fine.
Independent television.
Africa Independent Television.
AIT, sharing the African experience.
Hello, good morning and welcome to Kaakaki on Africa Independent Television AIT on this very special day. My name is Adora Onyanche.
I am Senami Oshiamoha. I am excited and delighted to welcome you to the program this morning. It's a special Tuesday, like Adora said, the 29th day of May. The day is a special day indeed because in Nigeria we call it Democracy Day, don't we?
No, you're all green and smiley from here.
It's Democracy Day.
Have you been looking forward to today?
What?
Did you look forward to today?
Kinda, yeah. I kinda did.
All right, let me put that in debate. Well, yes, indeed, on this day, 1999, after over 15 years of military rule, former military head of state, General Olusegun Obasanjo, was sworn in as an elected civilian president, marking the return to democracy in Nigeria. So Nigerians celebrate May 29th as Democracy Day.
But Adora, you know that not many people, a lot of people rather, fought against this day as Democracy Day. They refused to accept it, which was only, they feel it is only a ceremony. As a real Democracy Day in Nigeria, there are arguments that June 12th, the day Moshood Kashimawo Olalekan Abiola, popularly called MKO, was about being elected by all Nigerians before the election was annulled, should really be Nigeria's Democracy Day. What do you think?
The almighty June 12th. The day that is the
And
day.
I know that day is more than just about Moshood Abiola for you. I know.
You were told you hide this thing. No.
Yes. Fortunately, let's still wait.
All right. Well, the important point is that democracy has come to stay in Nigeria, and Nigerians can insist on demanding good governance from their leaders without anybody threatening them with a rifle, but the taxpayers' money.
Adora, do you think that all Nigerians everywhere are celebrating the return of democracy? Well, I think some Nigerians have little patience for any kind of democracy that does not allow to produce the leadership of the federal government.
You know, the thing is that, Senna, yesterday, I watched the Democracy Day lecture that was live on, from Yanogwa, and then, watched the different speakers, and I listened in, and they were all saying the same thing that we've all heard before, and, I asked this person sitting close to me, and I asked her, I was like, what do you think about Nigeria, after 13 years, 13 years democracy? And she's like, well, she hasn't seen any changes, but she just knows that we've done things, but we have not done them in quantum leaps. And I asked her what she means by that. She said, okay, look at this administration for his 1 year of good luck administration. What have we seen but mayhem? And, and I say, well, truth be told, there are some challenges, but I think this is the first time in a long time that, the government, an arm of the government, the National Assembly, especially the House of Reps, is bringing a probe to the fore and is actually reaching, second reading and being passed and is given over to the EFCC. So I think that we're getting there, but
a lot still needs to be done, Adora, definitely. In as much as, yes, we're in democracy, a lot of people have also argued that Nigeria's democracy, to a large extent, is not the way it should be. Which some will say, okay, fine, Nigeria is just starting out as a democratic, society, so it's going to take a while. 10, 13 years, well, maybe still not enough. But to get to the place that Nigeria needs to get to democratically, a lot needs to be done. More people, because a lot of times the policy is still run like it's been run like, a military government.
Yeah.
Like people, the court says a government official should do this. He just throws it away. And,
the court itself, adjourns all the cases.
Yeah, members of the executive, members of government do not really respect and obey the rule of law. Neither do they always, go by court injunctions or whatever. But it's going to take a while. It's a long, unfortunately for us.
Of course, we've got 50 since independence. There's a lot of people worried.
Yeah, 50 since independence. But remember, it's not all those 50 years that we have, that the country has been ruled democratically. It has been more military rule than democratic rule.
If you look at Ghana, for instance, I think we've similarly had the upheavals that they have had. We had coup about the same time, military rule about the same time. But if you look at the, the changes and, of course, the renaissance in government and the leadership and the accountability of the leaders to the people, I think there's still so much a wide gap.
Nigeria is so big, so much bigger than Ghana. Yes. Ghana is so much bigger than Nigeria, if you know what I mean.
Just be ready after the show. Listen, I beg to agree with you, but just imagine what former Vice Chancellor of Ahmadu Bello University spokesperson for Northern Leaders Forum, Ango Abdullah, told some journalists. Let me quote him. He says, very soon, Northern elders will write to the president, visit him, and ask him some questions. What we are seeing has surpassed Boko Haram. If they want to weaken us before 2015, then the North can settle for another option. End of quote.
Translation?
Well,
what does that mean? What do you think? What kind of option will the North settle for, Adora? I ask the question because an influential national daily with sympathy for the Northern Elders Forum wrote on its editorial in the same issue last Sunday.
Listen, I read that editorial and I was worried. Because it's almost like people are coming out with codes and, and ordering. You saw the one by General Buhari saying dogs will meet baboon and blood. There'll be a spread of bloodshed. Well, it's instigating the return of a history Nigerians want to forget, and that is a time where, the government, the people, the leaders in the government are not putting the people first.
Adora, I agree with you. You know that the editorial was on the comments made about Buhari's threat of bloodbath if the 2015 election did not go his way. Let me again quote that editorial. Dr. Ruben Abati made a snide reference to the way Buhari was removed from office more than 26 years ago by his martial colleagues. If such a change could happen to Buhari, they could have planted the seeds of that same possibility in the minds of those well equipped to effect such change in our polity. End of quote.
Wow. Now, the question is, do some of us wish that the seed planted in the toppling of Buhari by soldiers should germinate and blossom? Do you think that's what people are looking forward to?
No, I don't think so.
Well, those who break coconuts with their heads are never alive to eat the coconut because their head gets broken in the process of breaking the coconut.
You can say that again, Adora. Again, former head of state Yakubu Gowon says the Boko Haram insurgency is not caused by poverty. So you see, everyone has their own opinion about what is happening, but the truth be told, the issue of Boko Haram in Nigeria, has raised a lot of dust. It has raised a lot of, it has brought out the dirt under the carpet as far as northern Nigeria is concerned, and as far as the polity is.
There should be a lot of bitterness.
There's a lot of bitterness, whether it's poverty, whether it's political, whether religious. Unfortunately, religious, all of them seem to have a role to play. All these, whether religious, politics,
they all have a hand.
Poverty all have a hand to play in the insurgency of Boko Haram. And where does it fall at the end of the day? It falls at the feet of the government to do more for its people. Because again and again, an idle hand is a devil's workshop.
Definitely.
A young man who is employed, who has something to do for himself and his family, he would not, exactly. He will causing mayhem and havoc in the police.
Well, and I think that there is sense in what General Yakubu Gowon is saying. We seem to be overflogging this poverty excuse for the criminality of some Nigerians, which is what you said. Now, even Professor Ango Abdullahi thinks that some people are using Boko Haram to achieve the objective of weakening the North.
That is to say, Boko Haram is a political tool. Is that what he's saying? Anyway, those who's for and with whom did Boko Haram begin an association before the sex turned into a monster that is about to consume those who created it? I beg, let's leave Boko Haram out of our discussion today. We are celebrating Democracy Day, and Boko Haram is not a democratic sect, so we're going to leave them out.
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking, when I see I'll just stand and say, I pledge Nigeria, my country, to the faithful, loyal, and honest. And you'll be like, what's going on? And I'll know you truly do not remember the day Democracy Day.
How could I know?
Well, then, this Tuesday we will be examining the 12 months good luck Jonathan's administration. How far? How well? That will be in our interview segment, and we will set the tone for that discussion with our own production and thoughts on the last 12 months before we take on our guests from Lagos, Kaduna and the Abuja centers. Of course, all the segments will be there as well as President Goodluck Jonathan broadcast, which we hope will come up at 8 o'clock, hopefully. And if you are set, now let's fasten your seatbelt. Please stay at home. Does it make sense? Okay, sit tight. Well, let's take off for the world headline stories. Stay with us.
Thanks for staying with us. Nigeria's democracy came under scrutiny on Monday with a call by President Goodluck Jonathan for a close-up of rank between the legislative and the executive arm for the benefit of Nigerians. The president made the call at the 2012 Democracy Day National Symposium at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. Officials of all arms of government and other democratic institutions that graced the event came up with recommendations on how Nigeria's democracy can be deepened. The executive arm of the Nigerian government has kicked against the proposed amendment to the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN Act. Majority public hearing on the CBN Act Amendment Bill 2012 canvassed for the total independence of the Apex Bank. UN Special Envoy to Syria, Kofi Annan, has condemned the killing of about 108 people in the town of Haula as an appalling crime. Annan arrived Damascus on Monday and condemned the government for the use of heavy weaponry in the town of Haula. The UN said 49 children and 34 women were among Friday's dead. The Syrian ambassador to London has been summoned to the Foreign Office to hear the British government's condemnation of the massacre in Haula. Prominent Bahraini human rights activist Nabiz Rajab has been released on bail. Rajab was arrested on May 5th at Manama Airport on his return from the Lebanese capital, Beirut. He has been in charge with inciting of defaming Bahrain security forces since February last year. The government and Sunni ruling royal family have fierce opposition from mainly Shia activists. Five-time world boxing champion Johnny Tapia died at his home in New Mexico. Police spokesman Robert Gibbs said an autopsy would be conducted to determine the cause of death. Tapia, 45, made his professional boxing debut on March 25, 1988 and went on to win the WBO Super Flyweight and Bantamweight titles, the WBA Bantamweight belt and the IBF Super Flyweight and Featherweight titles. He retired last year with a professional record of 59 wins and 30 knockouts, 5 losses and 2 draws. That's World News Headlines. Kaakaki continues in a moment. When we return, it will be time for our cover story for today. Stay with us.
Explore Africa.
Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling,
exciting,
and breathtaking
experience
with Kaakaki,
the African voice.
All right, thanks for staying with us. It's time now for our cover story for today. And Adora is standing by with Anayoyo Gagburiage's special reports.
All right, thank you for the insights, Anami. All right, if you're out there and you don't remember, today is Nigeria's Democracy Day, and I think that is, well, considering all that we've been through over the past, since getting our democracy and coming out of military rule, it is worth celebrating. Now, Nigeria's democracy came under scrutiny on Monday with a call by President Goodluck Jonathan for a close-up rank between the legislative and the executive arm for the benefit of Nigerians. Now, the president made the call at the 2012 Democracy Day National Symposium at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. In our cover story, our correspondent Anayoyo reports that officials of all arms of government and other democratic institutions that graced the event came up with recommendations on how Nigeria's democracy can be deepened. Let's see what Anayoyo has to say.
13 uninterrupted years of democracy, out of which President Jonathan has been in the saddle as elected president for 1 year. It was time to take stock. For President Jonathan, the relationship between the executive and the legislature must improve if Nigerians are to get the full benefit of democracy.
Mention the National Assembly. Budget is a law, and the National Assembly must make a law. This is about the Constitution. Said that the executive, the president, has to plan and manage the economy of this country. And for you to plan and manage the economy of the country, your budget must be planned. If you send the budget to the National Assembly and they tear it into pieces and package whatever they like to you, is that planning or managing the economy? We have challenged every year. I remember when we came in 2007, our first budget in 2008, we even wanted to go to court. And our belief is that let the Supreme Court of Nigeria tell us. If it is duty of the National Assembly to plan the economy, let them do the budget, hand over to us, we implement. But if it's our duty to plan the budget, then they should listen to us. Because the executive arm of government has a Ministry for National Planning, have the Ministry for Finance, and work with the CBN.
But according to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the National Assembly has come to assert itself by being independent.
This letter is a very critical and strategic important arm of government. No country can effectively operate a robust democracy without a viable and virile legislature. In the past 13 years, the National Assembly of Nigeria has worked assiduously towards making laws for peace, order, and good governance of our people. For the first legislative year of the 7th National Assembly, the House of Representatives have introduced 269 bills, of which 114 bills have already passed the critical second reading stage. On the area of oversight, which is the second function of the legislature, routine performance and evaluation of other arms of government by the committees of the legislature has assisted in guiding project and program execution. Still, in furtherance of its oversight functions, the National Assembly has had to carry out investigations into critical areas of our economy. The revelations have no doubt been startling. We wish to emphasize that the object of these investigations is not to withhold.
Participants agree that the security challenges facing the country has, however, threatened the foundation of Nigeria's democracy.
A good security system is regular appraisal, the internal reforms, and of course, the upgrade of capability.
Nigeria's electoral process umpire, Atahiru Jega, believes that some contradictions of the Electoral Act may turn out to be Nigeria's albatross if not reviewed.
There was a provision in the Electoral Act when it was amended that said that whatever candidate the political party presented to INEC should not be changed for any reason whatsoever. And that meant many of the parties, virtually all the parties, submitted candidates to us that did not go through the democratic procedure of election. And there is a provision of the Electoral Act also that says that no candidate should stand election without going through the democratic procedure of nomination in the parties. Now, obviously, that is a major ambiguity and contradiction, and it needs to be dealt with in the Electoral Act.
The former university lecturer revealed that 200 electoral offenders have been prosecuted by INEC, while 870,000 persons have been discovered to have registered more than once in the last voters' register.
Well, interesting. You look at that and you see, well, I thought it was more of political, sentiments than what I actually wanted to hear about Nigeria moving forward and how they could actually do it, But I think that, first of all, having credible elections and, of course, not rigging and ranting and going to court and adjourning all the cases would be the first step in. But look at Nigeria, so far so good. From the time when we had granite pyramids to now that we're just crude oil sensitive, I don't think when it comes to agriculture and resource management, we've actually been fair to ourselves.
Yeah, well, still talking about democracy. You heard Professor Tahiru Jega there talking about how many people have been prosecuted.
Yes.
From last year's elections, April 2011 elections, people who registered more than once, and those generally electoral offences, those who have, for me, like you said, credible elections are the first steps in making a democratic society. It's the first step in making sure that, first of all, the people, the electorate, have selected those in office. That way there can be peace, both in governance and amongst the people, because the people know this is my man. I brought him in here, and he has peace knowing that he hasn't been cheated out of his rights. That way, that's the first peace that we can get. That's the first step to, democratic reforms, and that's the first step in deepening Nigeria's democracy. And really, if that can be sorted out, if that can be settled, then a lot of other things, it's just like, the Bible says, I see the kingdom and every other thing will follow. This time is ask for credible elections given the people. Then every other thing
I also think that the democratization of any nation, and that starts with the oneness of the leaders, the thought process, the collaboration of efforts, and of course putting the people first. When you have a polity of people who earn below how many dollars a day, you have somebody cutting away 1.6 billion naira in their bedrooms. Exactly. You worry and you wonder how sensitive a leader can be, and there's no accountability, there is no thoughtfulness, there is no sensitivity, and all starts from the polity. And even the North, the northern people who are crying wolf and crying out with deprivation and all of that. I think that the way to go about it is not making threats and insinuating bloodbaths and of course will I call it a time for war. But I believe that they should come together. If we are all one Nigeria, Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, Nupeti, the many tribal areas that we have in Nigeria, come together, talk about this, especially the leaders who listen. One thing to do all the talk, like we say, talk is cheap. It's one thing to do all the talking and not do the working. So I think that it's time to, we've seen enough of these symposiums and these conferences and these talks and these, lecture days. What is happening? What happens after that?
What's the way forward? Like the way it is now is Nigerians do not trust their leaders.
Most
simple. How can I trust you when you don't care about my welfare? That's just the way it is. That's why everyone is like, every man for himself. I go out, I do what I need to do, because no one cares about the road I walk on. No one cares about the water I drink. No one cares whether my freezer has food in it, or whether my freezer is even... or whether there's water, running in my home, or whether, my environment is clean, is green. No one cares. So the average Nigerian is wearing this cap. Do it yourself. And do it yourself. You have to fend for yourself. Otherwise, you are on your own. And over time, the government has proven them right that we don't care about you. Exactly. We don't care about you, because it's one thing to come out and say we care about you. It's another thing to show me that you do care about me, because truly, for me to believe you care about me, you have to do something
interesting. I know you would like this. Somebody was saying yesterday how Nigeria is not gender sensitive, especially to women. Although we are having more women in politics and leadership roles, it's almost like they are the voices behind. Except we have people like Alison Madueke and of course Okonjo-Iweala, the two major women and they're wondering what happens to the other women in government, Commissioner for Women Affairs, Minister for Women Affairs, all the women in government, ministries where women should be thriving. And unfortunately, this will interest you. I was talking to a lawyer yesterday after this show, and she was telling me about the very funny experience she had. She had a colleague who was arrested and put into prison overnight, and she went to bail the colleague, and the police told her she doesn't know her job, and she asked, what do you mean by that? I said, don't you know that women are not allowed to bail in Nigeria? That is constitutional. Wow. And she said she has not read it in any part of the Constitution except this is new. They said no, even in their training, even in their enlightenment, their symposiums, they are told that no woman is allowed to bail anybody. Anyone. So she took it up, and she was like, she's not leaving until she leaves with her colleague, and they manhandled her and threw her. They almost picked her up and threw her out of the station. In fact, the DPO walked her out. I don't want to mention the center, out of the office and told her to go to hell.
Maybe we should mention the center.
And told her to go to hell. And she went to court. And by the time she went to court, I think the judge on superseding the case told them, this is not constitutional. There's nowhere in the law. This is just an aggrieved mentality by the police. And it's been carried on for years. And people seem to think, people who join the force think is norm and law. And, you know, they were chastised, and she was like, oh, they said they were going to appeal. She was like, okay, let's appeal, until they found out that there was some really hard truth in what she was saying, and, you know, wanted to settle out of court. But that shows you the ignorance of the people in power and people who supposedly are supposed to handle the law. They don't even know what the onions that the backbone or the platform of what they're supposed to institute. So I believe that training, you know, and of course getting people who are credible to lead is one of the core issues Nigeria has. You know, you don't get people who don't have anything upstairs or inside.
And really, Dora, you know, like that lady you just talked about, she, for instance, is definitely someone who's doing the right thing. Lillian is definitely doing the right thing. What do I mean by Lillian doing it? I'm not talking about the law here. I'm just talking about someone who knows her rights and who's willing to fight for it. And I think this is something that Nigerians have to imbibe. You see a Nigerian, for instance, someone has trampled on your human rights, you know, your basic rights, whether a policeman, whether whoever, and the person is like, I beg, I don't want trouble, let me just go. I beg, I don't want trouble. And the person will do it again. If it's not you, the person keeps doing it until the person begins to believe that he is actually doing the right thing. Anyway, so we all have to learn to fight for what is right.
I know you're passionate about women, so I think we'll come back to that. We'll take the headline reminders and then we'll get right back to you. Stay with us. So the special, I call it special TV edition of Kaakaki, the African Voice. It's Democracy Day. Where are you this morning? Okay, I know you're at home sitting in front of your TV. If you can see me, it means you are at home. We have another special feature this morning, and this time we're talking mosquitoes. What has mosquitoes got to do with democracy? Well, not much. Mosquitoes which cause malaria claim lives every day, and Africa has recorded a tremendous increase in malaria-related issues, which made citizens in Kenya begin to fight malaria by getting rid of breeding grounds. Let's take a look at the projects in Kenya and how they fight malaria. Maybe we'll take a cue from what we find in Kenya.
Mwana Amani Isa has just come across a mosquito breeding site at a homestead in Kenya's coastal town of Malindi. She's a mosquito scout and often goes out to neighborhoods looking for signs of the insect. If left to mature, the larvae will develop into mosquitoes that can transmit diseases like malaria or elephantiasis.
There
are many mosquito larvae here, and since the tube they're breeding is not a permanent structure, the water will need to be poured out. The owner says the water is for his livestock. He needs to pour just enough for the cows to drink, so that there is no water left.
Sasa ilikuwa na shida ya maji, nikafukua kisima pale, nikatoboa maji.
I had a problem with my well, so I decided to use the bathtub to store water for my animals. I didn't know that mosquitoes were breeding there. I now know how to prevent this.
According to the World Health Organization, malaria claims about 1 million lives worldwide every year. The majority of victims are aged below 5 years and live in sub-Saharan Africa. Mosquito scouts like Mwana Amani are trying to change this. She's a volunteer with Puma, a group started in 2006 to get communities to clean up their surroundings and help control malaria. In town, Mwana Amani sprinkles some bacteria to help destroy larvae in a blocked drain. She says, though, that the trash will need to be removed. Mwana Amani's work is already having an impact on some residents here.
It's good to see the mosquito scouts working here because some people don't understand the importance of keeping the environment clean. Everyone must chip in because the municipal council cannot serve all parts of Malindi on their own.
She's taught us how to keep our surroundings clean and cover water drums to prevent mosquitoes. We've managed to control mosquitoes here because of Mwana Amani.
Malindi town is found along the Indian Ocean coastline, and the warm and humid conditions here make it perfect for mosquitoes to thrive. There are now over 250 trained mosquito scouts in the town who are sponsored by donors to serve about 50,000 residents. The scouts have also been able to help researchers like Dr. Charles Mbogo map out areas with mosquitoes and find ways to get rid of them. Dr. Mbogo works for the Kenyan Medical Research Institute and says he's been recording fewer malaria-infected mosquitoes over the last 4 years.
We have good achievements in this particular aspect, as we have been able to reduce mosquito populations in Malindi, or upper Malindi, by about 70%. And the malaria cases have also gone down by about 60% also in the same area. I would attribute this maybe to the programs that are going on, scaling up of ITNs or long-lastingness in the communities, telling them exactly how to use them, and also level control that we are also putting in. We have also been putting in environmental management, which the people actually do the work themselves by removing those sources of mosquito breeding sites.
After field work, Mwana Amani meets her colleagues at the office to discuss their findings today and the solutions they plan to implement.
Nilipata kuna kisima kwa mzee fulani hivi kule Muyeye, ambaye hicho kisima anatumia tu maji yake, anachotea ng'ombe wanakunywa. Anachota kwa kisima, anaweka kwenye madude ambayo ng'ombe wanakuja wanakunywa pale. Lakini hicho kisima nilipata kina mbu wengi sana. Sasa kile ningetaka nilete kwenu hilo ili tushauriane tuone ni kitu gani tunaweza fanya pale mahali ili wale mbu wasizaliane pale.
Wajulisha hata hii suluhisho ambayo tuko nao, kwa sababu hata sisi wenyewe tunajua wazi ya kwamba shida ambayo huwa tunatumia kutreat haya maji hawana side effect kwa wanyama ama kwa binadamu, ni vile tu yanaua umbu, na sidhani kama atakataa.
Scientists in the continent are still working on a malaria vaccine that can eventually eradicate the disease. If successful, Kenya hopes to roll out a vaccine by 2015. At the Malindi District Hospital, health workers say that they have seen a significant drop in the cases of malaria treated here.
On average, we'd say 1 to 2 patients a month. That's if you look back at our record, as I said, due mortality and morbidity, we have 1 to 2 confirmed cases. We find the majority of the cases actually there are no malaria parasites which are seen, and we have complete confidence in our laboratory and the results that will give us. So from that, we have only 1 to 2 confirmed cases, and usually with the appropriate medication, majority, if not all, go back home cured.
Use of treated bed nests is also being encouraged as efforts to reduce mosquito populations continue. But even then, some people often find other ways of utilizing the distributed nests, making it difficult for mosquito scouts to work efficiently.
Haya ndio matumizi mengine ambayo
hayastahili ya neti kutumika.
This is how some people misuse the net. They say they don't like the quality of this net, that they are rough. So it's used to protect their chicken from birds like hawks. This is very bad. The Mosquito Scouts are working on plans to replicate the program in other parts of the country because they believe this will give Kenyans a better chance at fighting and even eliminating malaria. Efforts to control the disease in Malindi have already made a significant difference, and perhaps this model can also help save many more lives elsewhere.
That's the spirit I'm talking about, the do-it-yourself spirit, the I can do spirit. I love that spirit, not in a negative way, not when you make a decision to do out of desperation, because when you make a decision out of desperation, you don't get the best results. So when you make a decision based on information, you know, you're definitely going to make a very get good results at the end of the day. Look at that lady, what she's doing.
And I think that also,
in Kenya.
you know, when you make the effort, you attract, you know, help. People will see that you're making an effort and want to even help you and continue the process of what you started, you know. And I think, oh gosh, we go back to Nigeria again. That is another example Nigeria should take. The Nigerian people should stop always depending on their leaders to do everything for them. I mean, if you have the willpower to bring change, start the change and see what happens from there.
Truth be told, Adora, the government cannot be everywhere. We're talking about
for
36 states. We're talking about how many local governments? I don't even want to begin to count.
700 and something.
700 and something local governments of this in the whole country. How many villages? How many towns? So definitely the government, as they say, they're not witches. So they're human. So they can't, you know, be everywhere at the same time. However, those who are the closest to the grassroots, or the local governments, and the people themselves, the community themselves.
Yes, and they should take charge.
I was driving through Karu just 2 days ago, and I saw something that pleased me. You know, normally Karu markets, the Karu markets, there's a road that links Chikoi and another one that leads Nyanya. In the middle of that road is the popular Karu market. Now, they don't have this waste disposal places, most of them don't. And so most people carry their dirt from the market and put in the middle, in the pavement, in between the road, in the middle of the road, and they just put it there as if to say, well, whenever the government is ready, they should come pick it up, you know. And this littered the road for a very long time, and even, you know, by the time the dirt begin to spill, they spill into the road and reduce the, you know,
the transit space for vehicles.
Thank you very much. And you know, the community, I was passing by that day, and the decks had been cleaned out, and there were little signs saying, "Do not dump refuse." Community. Fantastic. Do not dump refuse in at least 10 places. And I was like, this is great. Now, these are the people, the community in that place know that they are the ones who, you know, are the worst.
But I do hope that the people will respect that, because you have people who are ignorant.
You know why it will be difficult for anyone not to obey that? Because the people who put those signs up are just right next door. So you put it out there, they come at you, and then you are in trouble, and then they take you to the nearest police station because they can see you, and so it makes it difficult for anyone to flout that order.
I think they should also do that.
Took charge, and I was so impressed by that.
I think they're fantastic. Well, they should get an award for that. What I was going to keep in, sorry for interrupting you there, is they should also do that with the act of urinating everywhere, you know. What urinating is that nobody seems to obey that one. I don't know why it's so hard. Maybe because you're pressed on your leg. Whatever. I must get
maybe until the people who live around the places where people just urinate are not doing anything about it. If you're urinating behind my house, I have a right.
No, but then I beg to differ. I think that another thing we should look at is the placement of public toilets. And public toilets in every community, in every zone. And also bring people who will be, you know, in charge of the cleaning and motivate them by giving them incentives like maybe small stipends or allowances.
Cleaners, if you see these people in orange, on the streets, cleaning the streets and everything, they are there, but again, they cannot be everywhere. So, but you, who they're urinating in front of your gate, have a right to say
no. Talking about road cleaners, I saw one yesterday, and the woman was cleaning the road, and I'm coming to the special, if you just hold on, and I just cleaned that part of the road. A guy just threw an orange peel out of the window. I was mad. I just hunt. He said, "Why am I hunt?" I said, "Oh, take your orange peel," because the woman looked tired and sleepy. You could just tell that.
She's been there all day, and that is the attitude of most Nigerians. Anyway,
let's take you to Mauritius, away from Kenya and of course Nigeria and malaria. Kenya and malaria. Mauritius is reaping big money from tourism. At least 900,000 tourists visit the island country annually, and that's a lot of people. Now, a visit to Mauritius would not be complete without savoring its rich cultural heritage, and I'm telling you, it is rich, especially the Sega music. Some call it Sega, some call it Sega. Well, whatever you choose, the soulful music always captures attention and has become the unique selling point of tourism in Mauritius. In this next special feature, we take you to the island country to experience it yourself. Well, technically.
Island Mauritius, a stay here wouldn't be complete without a taste of the region's centuries-old culture. Boats are bringing a group of musicians to the beach at Truo Beach, one of the most popular tourist spots on the island. Hundreds of years ago, similar boats brought slaves to Mauritius who used music to tell of the hardships they suffered on the sugar plantations where they worked. The songs they sang still survive on most of the Indian Ocean islands. It's a soulful mix of drum beats, lyrics, and dance known as Sega. But in Mauritius today, Sega is performed mostly to entertain some of the 900,000 tourists who visit the island every year. Performances always draw a big crowd.
It's about enjoying life, being happy to be on the beach and dance, being happy to share their traditions and dances with tourists.
It was the first time for us to see it because we are the first time here in Mauritius. We have known that it is a traditional dance, some sexy dance, yes.
Those who've been in the music business for a long time agree that Sega has changed over the years. Michel Logri is one of the island's most famous Sega musicians. He's performed all over the world and released albums that include rock, rap, and R&B tracks. But as a descendant of African slaves, he reserves a special place for Sega.
We can't say that slavery does not exist because it's still in our blood. We are descended from slaves. We can't forget our fathers. I am doing this today for the memory of my ancestors. If I abandon this music, the drums, the rattles, then it's all over. That will be the end. That's why I am protecting this tradition.
Of Michel's 13 children, 8 are still alive, and he has 19 grandchildren. His whole family has taken on his love for Sega. The boys play the traditional rattle, triangle, and drums in his band, and the girls perform as backup dancers. Michel's wife, Therese, has been making the costumes for her husband and children for over 20 years on an old but trusted sewing machine in the family sitting room. Even if the costumes have become a little more sexy over the years to suit tourist preferences, she's careful not to change them too much.
I think the tourists like it this way, but if it is really traditional, there must be respect. All my daughters dress themselves properly. They are very respectable. They dance with Michelle, and they are very respectable.
Michelle's forefathers were Sega musicians like he is, but they didn't make their own drums. He taught himself this technique, which involves bending a piece of flat wood into a perfect circle and then using a goat's skin that's stretched to the limit to make the surface of the drum. He doesn't just make them for himself, but also sells 15 to 20 of these drums every month for around $20 each, mostly in hotels to tourists and to visitors who come to his home.
Beaucoup bonne année, moi fait Ravane parce que les moutons, tu pouvais chez Gatier, le patin à Ravane, le tuer jerrycan longtemps, tapan jerrycan, ban fer blanc, mais c'est là nous gagnons commande nous.
Michelle also makes a modest living from his albums, which are sold here at Harper Music in Rose Hill, a bustling town in the center of the island.
This is a shop which produces albums for Mauritian artists. They are all in this shop.
Non, pas difficile.
No. But you must do good work, good music, good singing, good money.
Bon la musique, bon chanteur, bon l'argent.
Musicians in Mauritius who want to make an album spend in the region of $1,800 to pay for studio time. That doesn't leave a big profit margin. Even if Harper Music sells around 200 CDs a day, 80% of which are by local artists like Michelle. But there's growing competition from foreign music.
Even Sega. Sega is Mauritian Creole music, but my favorite is slow and disco.
Et quel type de musique vous aimez?
The 80s.
At the weekends, Mauritius's nightclubs fill up with the young, letting off steam after a hard week at work. Even if Sega still has a place in Mauritian culture, it's being replaced on the dance floor by hip-hop and techno.
Yes, I love Sega as well, but yes, not for Sega. Yes, like more for, well, customers, tourists, yeah?
For Michelle, Sega is more than just music. His songs are about the struggle of his people, not just 200 years ago, but still today. And by singing them like his ancestors did, he hopes that other Mauritians will sit up and get the message.
Well, should we or should we not talk about that?
From talking Sega straight to healthy. Am I standing by?
Yes, I am standing by, Sanami, and I have a word or two for you. There's no democracy between you and your 2-year-old daughter. Can you imagine? The tiny little thing bosses her around, but when it comes to her dad, she does as she's told, Sanami.
Don't worry, I'm going to let her know who the boss is starting today.
She's just flexing her mouth. When she goes home, the little girl says, "No, Mommy, sit down," and she sits down.
The lady yesterday, she says that her name is Lizzie, not Juliet. And please, could they put up your email so that she could write to you?
Oh, I think they did yesterday. It was up for a while.
Okay. So, producers, you know, you have to put up my email and my contact and leave it for a bit so that people like this beautiful lady can take it down and write to me. And maybe after what I'm going to say today, a lot of you may want to write to me. It's Democracy Day, but a lot of you are not being democratic with the way you're treating some stuff that you buy with your money. I Okay, remember I was talking about addiction last week, and I'm going to continue. I'm going to pick out 2 different topics or kind of things that you can be addicted to and try to address them. And never mind, I'm not going to ask you to guess, because if you guess, you're going to guess the one that I'm not going to pick. No, I'm not going to pick sex addiction. No, I'm going to pick alcohol addiction and smoking addiction. So let's start with alcohol addiction for today. Alcohol abuse. We shall examine what are alcohol abuse and alcohol dependence. Alcohol abuse means having unhealthy or dangerous drinking habits, such as drinking every day or drinking too much at a time. Alcohol abuse can harm your relationships. It can cause you to miss work and lead to legal problems, such as driving while drunk and getting into an accident, killing someone when you're intoxicated. Now, when you abuse alcohol, you continue to drink, even though you know your drinking is causing problems. If you continue to abuse alcohol, it can lead to alcohol dependence. Alcohol dependence is also called alcoholism. So if someone calls you an alcoholic, don't get upset. It's merely stating fact. Now, if you are physically or mentally addicted to alcohol, you have a strong need or craving to drink. You feel like you must drink just to get by. You might be dependent on alcohol if you have 3 or more of the following problems in a year. You cannot quit drinking or control how much you drink. 2, you need to drink more to get the same effect. 3, you have withdrawal symptoms when you stop drinking, and these include feeling sick to your stomach, sweating, shakiness, and anxiety. You spend a lot of time and money drinking and recovering from drinking, or you have given up on other activities so you can drink. You're not doing any sports anymore. You're not doing anything anymore. All your life is focused around this, hey, happy hour, go drink, go drink, go drink. And you have tried to quit drinking or to cut back the amount of drink, but you have not been able to. And then you continue to drink even though it harms your relationships and causes physical problems. You're sick, but you keep drinking. Your wife leaves you, you keep drinking. Your children leave you, you keep drinking. Your life leaves you, you keep drinking with your ghost. It's so as bad as that. Now, alcoholism is a long-term, chronic disease. It's a disease. It's not a weakness or a lack of willpower. Like many other diseases, it has a cause that can be predicted and has known symptoms and is influenced by your genes and your situation. So be sympathetic to people who are alcoholic. They're suffering from it because they're bad or weak or whatever. It's a disease. Now, let's look at how much drinking is too much. When is too much too much? Alcohol is part of many people's lives and may have a place in cultural and family traditions. It can sometimes be hard to know when you begin to drink too much. You are at risk of drinking too much and should talk to your doctor. If you are a woman and you have more than 3 drinks at one time or more than 7 drinks a week. Now, people, a standard drink is 1 can of beer, or 1 glass of wine, or 1 mixed drink. It's not all of them combined, people. It's one or the other. Now, if you are a man and you have more than 4 drinks at one time or more than 14 drinks a week, then you have an alcohol problem. Certain behaviors may mean that you're having trouble with alcohol. These include drinking in the morning, often being drunk for long periods of time, or drinking alone. Changing what you drink, such as switching from beer to wine, because you think it will help you drink less or keep you from getting drunk, feeling guilty after drinking, would also be some of the things that you should not be doing and would indicate that you have a drinking problem. Making excuses for your drinking or doing things to hide your drinking, such as buying alcohol at different stores or going to different bars because you don't want those people to think you're a drunk. So tomorrow you have a map of the bars. By the time you go to bar Monday, again next Monday, they think, oh, this man just comes once a week. You're right. He goes every day to different bars, bar hopping. Then not remembering what you did while you're drinking, having blackouts, and then worrying that you will not get enough alcohol for an evening or weekend. Like when they have that strike, I'm sure some people will be wondering, some chronic alcoholics will, oh, where will I get my alcohol from? Oh, I hope the bars will not strike. The bars strike, I wonder what they would do. Now let's look at diagnosis of alcohol problems. Alcohol problems may be diagnosed at a routine doctor's visit or when you see your doctor for another problem. If a partner or a friend thinks you have an alcohol problem, he or she may urge you to go see your doctor. Now, your doctor will ask you questions about your symptoms and past health, and he or she will do a physical exam and sometimes a mental health assessment. Oh yes, the mental health assessment checks to see whether you have a mental health problem such as depression, and that's a mental health situation that could lead you into drinking or could be an aftermath of your drinking. Now your doctor may also ask questions or do tests to look for health problems linked to alcohol such as cirrhosis. And it's very, very important that you keep track of these things and know that alcohol abuse is not democratic at all. There's no democracy there because the alcohol is dictating to you, and what you have is an alcoholic dictatorship, not a military one this time around. So happy Democracy Day, and be democratic in not drinking. Now, before I take the mail, just remember once again that we've added one more hospital to our free health camps that we run. We've been running in 4 hospitals. We have one more, and that is Primus Super Specialty Hospital. We're going to be there until Wednesday when the month ends. It's the month ending on Wednesday, I think Thursday, yeah. So yeah, Wednesday when the month ends. We're going to be there until the ending of the month, and we're going to give you free checks and free glucometers for diabetics. And the hospital is supporting us with free specialist consultancy for people who walk in. So come in and take advantage of this while it lasts. Let's look at the mail of the day. Mail of the day. Good day, Sister Adama. I have been experiencing chronic heartbeat for 2 years now. Please help me out. Chidema. Well, Chidema, the term you're looking for is palpitation, not chronic heartbeat. And this means that the heart is not beating properly. It beats faster or irregularly. It can occur in normal persons. Okay, I'll take that again. Sorry, Chidema. This means that the heart is not beating properly. It beats faster or irregularly, and it can occur in normal persons, like after you've had alcohol or caffeine or tobacco, etc. But most times it's a pointer to some background or cardiovascular disorder ranging from arrhythmia, coronary artery disease, abnormalities in the valves of the heart, etc. It can also be associated with emotional instabilities, like someone that worries a lot. But the bottom line is that you need to visit a hospital so that a doctor can do a thorough workup to isolate the particular cause of this in your case, and so that the appropriate treatment can be commenced before things get out of hand. So I come back to the dynamic duo. Do you have time to say anything about alcoholism?
I find a lot of people, and they mix. They call them mixers, and they put wine and grape juice and this and do that and punch. They do that a lot, and they say it's safe to do that. Do you think that is actually appropriate? Alcohol is alcohol. As long as it's alcoholic content, it's alcoholic content. Okay. Even some bitters contain bitters even contain alcohol. Even the things that are medicinal, like stout and all that, they still contain alcohol. Alcohol is alcohol. Okay. And within the limits.
We're going to leave it at that. It's the top of the hour. It's 7 a.m. And you know we have to go inside Nigeria. Thank you, Adama.
Have a lovely day.
Inspector General of Police Mohammed Abubakar wishes to facilitate this night. I beg your pardon. I'll take that again. The Acting Inspector General of Police Mohammed Abubakar wishes to felicitate with Nigerians on this year's Democracy Day. In his goodwill message, Mohammed Abubakar assured Nigerians of the commitment of the police force in providing a peaceful and secured environment for democracy to thrive. He reminded politicians and other political stakeholders of the nation, particularly in Ondo and Edo states where elections have been set to take place. He also urged politicians to embrace peace and eschew all acts capable of impacting negatively on the country's democracy. The police boss promised to provide adequate security before, during and after elections, noting that the force has already commenced the training of its personnel in the 2 states. Nigerian government has been told to create an environment for the development of children and devoid of violence. Acting Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Women Affairs, Esther Adeyemi, stated this in Abuja on Monday at the event organized to mark the Nigerian Children's Day. Rural communities in the federal capital city were devoid of the usual fanfare associated with Children's Day celebration.
The urgent need to raise our national consciousness to the necessity of protecting our innocent children against all forms of violence, insecurity, rape, trafficking, forced labor, hawking, kidnapping, and the attendant consequences.
Youth under the umbrella of Sustain Nigeria say they are worried over the failure of the federal government to make concrete policies to drive development in key areas of renewable energy, water and education. The youth met this noon at a forum tagged Abuja +20, which held in Abuja. The youth are mobilizing ahead of the United Nations Earth Summit in Brazil next month, which is aimed at protecting the environment from disasters.
And ministry don't have green policies on them, and this is a setback to the nation as a whole. And I think this is the time the government has to go green, has to bring in renewable energy policies that will drive the nation forward economically. And this, because we're having water shortage, if you're using water, you reduce the quantity of water you use, whether to brush or to bathe with. Those are the basic things they've been taught so far. And then also in their own little way, they should start thinking of the values of the air we breathe in, you know, and then plant trees. They've been taught all those ones.
Nigeria's democracy came under close scrutiny on Monday with a call by President Goodluck Jonathan for a close of rank between the legislative and the executive arm for the benefit of Nigerians. The president made the call at the 2012 Democracy Day National Symposium at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. Officials of all arms of government and other democratic institutions that graced the event came up with recommendations on how Nigeria's democracy can be deepened.
If you send the budget to National Assembly and they tear it into pieces and package whatever they like to you, is that planning or managing the economy?
The National Association of Resident Doctors of Nigeria has given the federal government a 14-day ultimatum to ask the Lagos state government to recall the sacked doctors and implement earlier agreement or face an indefinite nationwide strike of all its members. President of the association, Chidozie Achonwa, who gave the warning in Abuja on Monday, also said resident doctors will begin a warning strike by the 31st of May 2012.
Right. 1. Giving the federal government a 14-day ultimatum commencing from Monday, 28th of May 2012, to prevail on the Lagos state government to recall these doctors and implement earlier agreements or face an indefinite nationwide strike by all resident doctors in Nigeria in solidarity with our colleagues in Lagos state. By also ensuring that all state and federal hospitals all over the nation remain closed until our colleagues in Lagos state get reprieve. Now we also proceed on a 3-day warning solidarity strike from the 31st of May to the 2nd of June 2012.
The executive arm of the Nigerian government has kicked against the proposed amendment to the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN Act. Majority of the participants at the Senate public hearing on the CBN Act Amendment Bill 2012 canvassed for total independence of the Apex Bank.
That reminds me of the constitutional principle of checks and balances. There's no power that's absolute in itself. And that's why even governors, with the immunities they possess in the Constitution, the law also provides that a governor can be impeached.
But the executive arm holds a contrary view.
That's Inside Nigeria. Kaakaki continues in a moment. And when we come back, we will be going into our interview segment, and we're talking about 12 months of Jonathan. How far, how well. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back.
To be seeing my daughter every day is not small money. Your daughter, when he's concerned, my pocket is never afraid. Oh, well, I will do everything. I'm going to make you know the name you believe that. And then I tell her. Hello, Mom.
Sky. Yeah, I don't like anything that has to do with jazz. It's like, come. You be like, say, hungry. Never, why are you rich, Abby?
You know nothing about football, so there's no point asking. Organizer, come and know your body. This one not the problem.
Oh, well, see, baby, it's not my money.
Between 3 nurses and a doctor, find out what matters in Clinic Matters.
And I wonder what someone like you is doing in such a noble profession where so much coffee is required.
Can you attend to this woman?
Because the nurse who has the file has just gone into prepare to take her temperature. He's not planning to tell his wife until the other lady delivers. No, heartless. Is this our business if your husband impregnates another woman? The only problem I have is with people making silly and grave mistakes, especially in marriage. You are a nurse and not a marriage counselor.
A jealous man that doesn't like sharing some of my personal effects with anybody.
Women are not regarded as personal effects. Plenty time is over.
Get many of progress.
If my husband comes and say, make her no work, I go quickly fine.
Budgeting. Questions such as, do we need an NMP in the first place, must be asked. My view, we don't.
He is the field officer. He has the responsibility to ensure all operations regarding arrest and all that is conducted in the usual manner.
Engaging emerging topical issues in the polity.
The mere fact that we pay for 24 million liters of petrol on a daily basis, which is not, is shocking. And I think now people should be resigning their appointment.
It's supposed to be a business, but it has become another arm of government, and it's also suffering from the malaise that have beset government in Nigeria.
We want a good Nigeria first.
People that are benefiting at the IOCs. Why? Because they have a tax regime, a royalty regime that was framed over 42 years ago.
Still with Morocco. Surely.
Explore Africa.
Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling,
exciting,
and breathtaking
experience
with Kaakaki,
the African voice.
Now listen. The law is now beyond argument that the effect of a nullification of a thing, not necessarily an election, the effect of nullification of a thing is to completely wipe out, obliterate, remove, undo, erase, or render it ineffective.
Why must Nigerians pay the crime that has been perpetrated?
Explore Africa. Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy
Exciting
and breathtaking
experience
with Kaakaki,
the African voice.
Good morning, and you're still on to Kaakaki, the African voice, and of course, it's Tuesday. It's exactly 12 months today since Goodluck Jonathan was sworn in as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Indeed, President Goodluck Jonathan's election was in the first place a major national political shift, in that for the first time in the history of the country, a minority candidate from the South was emerging as president.
Additionally, President Jonathan was swept into office by an overwhelming popular desire to have a candidate who represented the younger generation and led the Nigerian nation.
Furthermore, the frustrations arising from the perceived failings of previous government, right from the military era up to the Olusegun Obasanjo years of democratic governance, made many Nigerians crave for new generation politicians whom President Goodluck Jonathan was perceived to represent.
You can say that again, Sina. Now, on assumption of office on May 29, 2011, the expectation of the Nigerian people from the Jonathan administration was very, very, very high. Now, 12 months down the line, and as Nigerians celebrate Democracy Day today, how do Nigerians see the government to massively voted into power? Have the government retained the confidence of Nigerians, even if the expectations of the people have not been met? Has the government created enough trust to generate hope that it can still deliver in the next 3 years?
What significant steps must be taken to show Nigerians that it can deliver both on its own promises and on the expectations of the electorate?
Well, those are the issues we will be engaging with this morning. And let me start from our Abuja studio here. We have joining us Uche Onyeagucha, former member House of Reps, legal practitioner. You're welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us on Kaakaki this morning. And we also have a guest from the Cardinal Studios, Bello Abdullahi, also joining us, who will be coming on. Okay, he's right there. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us on Kaakaki this morning.
Morning.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let's start with you, as you are right here in front of us. Now, apart from the celebration of Democracy Day, which is part of Nigeria's history, do Nigerians have reason to celebrate, looking at the way democracy has operated or have been operated in the last 10 to 13 years? Many say it hasn't been democracy at all.
Well, for those who say it hasn't been democracy, they have some point, but in all honesty, we have a lot to celebrate. When you look at Mali, when you look at Libya, when you look at Egypt, the fact that we have civilian government is something worthy of celebration. In all these countries I've mentioned, including Guinea, you have had military intervention in governance. And it is clear that our military has now been taught that their responsibility is in the barracks and in the external defense of this country. So I think the civilians have been able to manage that effectively, and the battles we will now have to wage is to ensure that our democracy is sustained. So to that extent, I would rightly start to celebrate in the fact that we are building and sustaining the democracy.
What about the last 12 months of President Goodluck Jonathan's administration? Would you say Nigerians have anything to celebrate in the last 12 months?
I would also say yes. There are things to celebrate and there are things to criticize President Jonathan for. But for a start, I will start by commending his approach and attitude towards encouraging and signing into law the Freedom of Information Act. Of course, that has created a lot of opportunity for people to ask questions on several areas which before now they wouldn't have asked. I was in the House of Representatives when that was passed between 2003 and 2007. And with President Obasanjo, it was difficult to get it even signed. He quarreled with virtually every aspect of the bill. He hated the word freedom attached to it. But of course, when President Jonathan came, he signed it into law. And I believe that by signing it into law, he knew he was transferring a good amount of powers that will help to sustain the democracy back to the Nigerian people, who will now exercise that right to ask questions on several aspects of our national life. So I think that is something commendable. Then secondly, as somebody who participated in the disarming of the Niger Delta militants and who was their lawyer, I commended the way and manner the government has managed to sustain that amnesty so that nobody has gone back to the creeks, because if all the militants were still back in the creeks blowing up the oil pipelines, reducing our oil sale, our economy would be in big crisis, because so much money has now been saved and put back in the economy, which before now the militants were disrupting. And I will also say I commend strongly the decision now taken to dialogue, to negotiate with Boko Haram, which I believe in the past in the past few days, we are noticing that there is a reduction. Perhaps the process on the ground might be working out for the discussions, the negotiations with Boko Haram to continue, and which might help to secure the country better than is being done.
All right, thank you very much. I'll go over to the cabinet citizen. Mr. Bello Abdullahi, what do you think? So far, so good. Looking at the President Jonathan's administration, how do you think? How well do you think he's come off?
Well, to start with, I wish to make a certain clarification. My name is Bello Abdul Hamid. Then, on the issue of the one-year anniversary of the present government, I think what Nigerians need to understand is that the issue of governance is like a road that is always under construction. What has been achieved so far has been that Nigerians have the opportunity to express themselves, coming back from the history of military interruptions. Again, there has been some very refreshing and innovative aspects to this government's one-year tenure. First of all, we must commend the innovative and refreshing aspect of it, where ministers are held to account for their activities in office. Certain criticisms that are leveled against the president are misdirected. Some of these issues should be addressed to the ministers that are holding certain offices, and this has been very well taken care of by the accountability framework, where ministers are called to express themselves, give the nation the blueprint of what they intend to do and what they are doing so far. What I think we need to do is to step down this process so that this shall be translated to the larger population, so that they know that some effort is being done in the governance of this country.
Okay, but still on you, Mr. Bello. You know, you had Honorable Uche talk about democracy. Let's look at democracy and Nigeria. We are all celebrating, and some people say perhaps they need to actually be told again what democracy is in Nigeria because they beg to differ. But in your own words, do you think that actually Nigeria has done well as a democratized nation? So far, so good.
I think so far, so good. Because democracy, like I said earlier, is like a road that is always under construction. We are on a forward movement in this aspect. Especially the executive, unlike in the military, has its own policies, and the National Assembly this past 1 year has been able to hold its own, and I think that is progress in democracy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bello. Now I'm going to come back to you, sir. In the course of the 2011 presidential election, many people, especially youth, saw President Goodluck Jonathan as someone who understood, the youth and who could see things from their point of view, especially while not being far from a youth himself, one of Nigeria's youngest presidents so far. But with the rising level of unemployment, especially still among the same youth in Nigeria, some say, have they wasted their votes? The youths are asking, have we wasted our votes? Because rather than being gainfully employed, more and more youths are, on the streets, doing nothing. Those who are doing something are, doing having negative effect on the country. What's your take on that?
I will start by saying that you have to restore security before you can create jobs, because there are many businesses that would find it difficult to set up in an atmosphere of insecurity. I have a law firm in Port Harcourt, and I know that during those hectic days of militancy in Niger Delta, many people, businessmen, closed down their offices and relocated to Abuja. That was at the time everybody felt Abuja is perfectly safe. And then Boko Haram came, and some of those people are fleeing from Abuja, and only God knows where next they will flee to, maybe to Lagos. And if you go to Lagos, you will notice that much emphasis is being put on providing security. And Fashola's government has bought some aircraft for the police to use. They have a lot of armored tanks they can use to go after armed robbers. So as long as security is being guaranteed, you will definitely have businesses that will come to set up and create these jobs that will get a lot of the youths off the street. But I would say that the security situation has not been very encouraging, especially as it affects Boko Haram. And I'm sure to a very large extent, if we succeed in getting the negotiation to really kick off, if we succeed in getting the whole bombing project to really stop, there are people who have lost confidence who want to stage a comeback, because Nigerian economy is begging for investment. There are people who are making good money, setting up businesses in several areas, and who are looking for the opportunity to come back. But in the same vein, a lot of this will still have to fall back on how much we address the energy question. Mr. President has given his word on it. He has put quite a lot of energy into it, and I think this is the time Mr. President has now got to give an ultimatum to the Minister of Power. We've gone beyond the period of promises or assurances that we are going to create 20,000 megawatts. But Nigeria now has to come up straight and tell Mr. President why he will not be able to deliver this amount within this period. And if by that target period he doesn't deliver, I think it's high time he leaves.
So you think that the youth should be patient? How long will it take before they begin to see a significant change in the unemployment level?
Well, if the youths in the Niger Delta lay down their arms, and so many of them have now been given opportunity of being trained for the purpose of preparing them to be gainfully employed, I think if we exercise a little more patience, that would also help to create that atmosphere where we can find good jobs. Because in democracy as we have it today, that struggle and contest for power is making a lot of people who have gotten access to power to realize that they have got to work harder or else they will be kicked out in the next election. Look at Anambra State, for example. It's become obvious that if you get elected as a governor in Anambra and you don't perform, you're dead on arrival. Because everybody is now struggling to impress. The governors are challenging themselves with their performance. If the governor in Anambra is doing well, the one in Imo wants to do better. If the one in Enugu is doing well, the one in Ebonyi will want to do better. So those who are not doing well enough are laying the foundation for them to be kicked out. And I think it is the pressure the youths are mounting by way of support to some of these governors that is helping to create that atmosphere. Therefore, I would suggest that they have not invested wrongly by believing in democracy, and they should be a little more patient. We will achieve the target.
Okay, I'll go over to the cabinet today, sir. Honorable has talked about, of course, patience, and some Nigerian youths will say patience, and for how long do we wait? Okay, let's look at the issue of the North, of course, and we see some likely who have underdevelopment in that area. Now, do you think so far so good that those youths have actually gotten the value from the president in which they cast their votes on?
With the level of poverty in northern Nigeria, I think a lot still needs to be done. I agree with the Honorable that the Boko Haram needs to be really engaged constructively so that we have security and an enabling environment where the issue of poverty will be adequately tackled. The issue of Al-Majiri is a good venture that the federal government has invested so much in so far, and I believe it's a good background to the issue of youth employment. Again, I think being that Nigeria are pricing people, I think other ways should be created so that youth should be self-employed, and in that process they will create wealth. We should not allow youth to continue to think that it's only through government that they can get engaged. Various measures need to be put in place so that youth will be self-employed and in the process create wealth.
All right, so still talking about self-employment and creation of wealth, some would say that, available capital or a conducive environment, like, Honorable mentioned the state of electricity in Nigeria. Say you want a small-time business and you have to depend on two-stroke engine generators, as we would refer to it now. What could the government do for people, especially you who want to start small businesses or want to go into entrepreneurship?
I believe there are processes already in place. They just need to be enhanced through issue of microcredit. And again, the issue of power, of course. We know that a lot still needs to be done in that process. But youth giving microcredit, I think, can find very innovative ways because of the kind of people we are. Nigerians are very, very enterprising, unbelievably enterprising. I believe if microcredit should be provided, a lot of youth will find a way around the present challenges we have.
Thank you very much. I'm going to come back to you, Honorable. You did talk about security earlier, and of course you've very well stated that where there's no peace, you can't even talk of business, in that place. Let's look at, I want you to assess the government's response to the issue of security generally in the country right now.
Well, to take it from
years have we had these insecurity problems. You have had insecurity problems arising as a result of Niger Delta militancy. Some arising as a result of OPC activities in the southwest. Some arising as a result of MASOB activities in the southeast. And now some arising as a result of Boko Haram in the north. And of course, kidnapping in the southeast and the southwest. I believe to a large extent the OPC problems in the southwest is highly reduced.
Yeah. And
we must give government credit for that. The same applies to the Niger Delta militancy in the south-south, and that has been reduced at least up to the level of 90% or more. Then you go to the southeast, I believe the MASOB activities have not been any way destructive anymore, owing to the way they have been dialoguing and meeting with the government. And then if you come to the kidnapping, that one is reduced, but not to the level that we really expect. It keeps, the pendulum keeps going up and down. But the fact that the Chief of Army Staff himself is from Abia, and that has been the bane, the headquarters of the kidnapping, and he has moved in the soldiers since he came into power, has to a large extent helped to reduce the rampant and serious bold-faced kidnapping. What you now have are the small-time kidnappers who ask for smaller sums of money, and I believe that with time that will come down. So what it means is that it has abated, these problems of insecurity have abated to a large extent in this area. However, Boko Haram is still on, but to a large extent the spate of bombings has reduced. What I actually do not agree with is the military and the police protecting themselves when they should be protecting us. Because you come to Abuja, they block all the roads, protecting their premises. I think Mr. President should get them to remove all those roadblocks, because it's an embarrassment that they are creating that sense of insecurity. The intelligence should be doing more of the work on Boko Haram. By continuing to put those stumps on the road, you are creating that sense of fear. And we must be prepared to show Boko Haram and their sponsors that Nigeria is prepared to move forward beyond.
Okay, Honorable, you've talked about the method of security, and some would say that the methods used so far has been uncreative and slow. Now, what has been the challenge for Nigeria, especially as a policy, in dealing with this insecurity saga as it is, and what can be done? What are your suggestions for moving it forward?
Well, the government approach, in my opinion, has always been one that tries to solve the problem in immediate, but in the long term doesn't. I believe that some of the people who have been arrested, rather than being attacked and killed, more effort should be made to arrest them and keep them for questioning, ascertain how they got into it and how come we arrived this far. Each time I hear that a Boko Haram person, neighborhood has been attacked, 17 killed, 14 dead, I really am not happy about it. I wish we make more effort to catch these people alive, sit them down, talk to them. Because that way we will begin to have a situation where some of them will come out and say, look, I was involved in this, I have changed from it, this is the way forward. Because we need to have that kind of appeal begin to happen. That way you can even have insiders that will now begin to discuss with you. So I think more energy should be invested into intelligence rather than brute force. Because the approach of us to attack and kill these people is not really achieving much. Because there is so much poverty that the poverty is engendering a situation where people, youth, are being recruited easily. And people these days kill for very small sums of money. Most of those who have helped to ensure that their parents are kidnapped, at the end of the day, don't make up to 500,000 naira from the ransom.
Okay, I'll just hold you on that frame of thought because today is Democracy Day. I want to focus on the positives of the government. So far, so good. So I think I'll just ask the sir in Kaduna this question. Yes. Hello, are you there? Okay, I'm sure he is. Well, my question is this. So far, so good. We've talked about insecurity, we've talked about education, we've talked about, electricity, and it's only just been 1 year of the administration of the president. Do you think that 1 year is enough to actually bring to fore all of these plans and all of this transformation agenda that he has, considering the fact that people are already wallowing in self-pity?
1 year is not enough. It is just the beginning. I think Nigeria should keep the faith. This present administration will certainly deliver.
All right. What do you think? So far, so good. What do you think that Nigerians should look forward to? What should they expect? Because Honorable has spoken about patience, and you know Nigerian people very, very, very well, and they believe in instant gratification, and they believe by proof. So, what should the Nigerian polity, especially the citizens and the youths, expect from the administration of His Excellency Goodluck Jonathan?
I think Nigerians, particularly the youth, should expect silent achievements. I think the Nigerian people should expect a very innovative and conscientious and responsive approach to governance in this country. And I believe within the next 3 years, we'll have moved forward and Nigerians will be better for it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bello Abdullahi. Honorable, I'll come back to you. Now, we're still looking at democratic gains for Nigeria and how Nigeria's democracy can be deepened. Looking at the 12 months of President Goodluck Jonathan, how far, how well? Now, a lot of people have said that Nigeria is a mono economy, of course, regarding oil and Nigeria's dependence, great dependence or total dependence on oil, when Nigeria has the capacity to feed the whole of West Africa. I'm talking of agriculture. Now, how and don't you think that it is time that the government begins to pay, more attention to making Nigeria also an agrarian society, especially the North, that is crying wolf when it comes to, poverty in their land and all of that? There's a lot of land mass in the North where Nigeria can farm, and expand its agricultural base.
When it comes to agriculture, I think it's one area the government should even get more credit than most people are already giving them, because they are doing their bit. One, they have released quite enormous sums of money to be given to farmers to help them in their agricultural activities. The problem is with the banks. I have a fish farm. It's not easy to get the loans, because these loans are rather being diverted to bogus big farmers who have no real farms in the real sense of it. The ordinary farmer who has need for this loan, pressing them.
Okay, so if the government has provided solution and the banks are sitting on that, shouldn't there be more that should be done to make the bank, release this funds for the purpose for which it was given in the first place?
I agree that they should do more, and I believe that that is the job of the central bank, because the central bank should now begin to find out from the banks to whom they have given all this money, who have you given opportunity to access it. Because the small-scale farmers should be having it, and there has to be systems to ensure that these loans are being accessed. The terms and conditions they are asking people to provide before they can qualify for these loans is still very strict. In fact, the interest rate is supposed to be about 7% in the real sense of it, but there are many banks out there that have been approached. They are not even giving to you for 15%. They will tell you, okay, we will give you for 15%, and at the end of the day, when you repay back, then we can your other 7%. It ought to be a liberal loan facility which many ordinary farmers should have easy access to. There are those who are involved in goatry, piggery. We should be able to identify them and give these loans directly. We should access the Farmers Association of Nigeria and use their membership to give out these loans, because the hard-working women and the men of this country who are involved in agriculture in the real sense of it, once they're able to have access to this, we are going to have a lot of food surplus in this country. And cooperative societies that are also involved in the processing of agricultural produce should have opportunity of accessing the rural farmers as to be able to save a lot of the waste that is produced from their farm. But in recent times, we are beginning to see some large measure of creativity. If you go to Benue State, within this period, you see several mountains of rotten oranges being wasted. When if all these oranges had been extracted, the juice extracted from them before they are rotten, could have been sold, because you can extract them, preserve them. So many people are taking recourse now to taking fresh orange rather than buying the usual orange juice, which is being sold to us. So I think we have to have some mid-scale approaches where this excess farm produce that are wasted because the farmers lack the facility are taken advantage of. Because within this period, everybody's eating corn, and then after some time, you have our waste dumps are filled up with a lot of corn that are wasted. Yes. We must never waste it, because we waste it as if we have surplus and we don't even have enough.
Well, for the first time, Nigeria, has provided fertilizer without allowing middlemen to hijack it. What impact do you think this has created in the agricultural sector?
Definitely, it will increase. It will help in increasing the yield, because the more the rural farmers have access, the better for all of us. Those who are really solving the food production problem are not the big farmers, so to say, but the regular, ordinary farmer who is out there, who is not even captured by the analysis being made by CBN and all these other financial institutions.
How can we attain food security? You've just talked about the waste that Nigeria sees year in, year out. Like you said, mountains of rotten oranges, sometimes mountains of mangoes or hills of mangoes, and like again and again, even at home, everybody seems to be able to extract orange juice from orange and preserve and put in the fridge, pineapples, mangoes, and all of this. Yet, we have a lot of waste. How do we attain food security?
Well, attaining food security means that farmers must get good reward for their effort. Because if you keep producing this and it's being bought at cheap or little or no cost, that you're hardly making profit, most people will decline from it. If you go to the rural areas, a lot of people are quitting farming, because farming has to be shown to be productive. I should be able to farm, and out of my farm products, send my children to very good primary schools, very good secondary schools, and universities, and even buy a car for my house, and a car for myself, and I have a house for my family. I believe that this is also another area where the government must step in, because all this surplus that is produced and wasted must be bought off by the government. So the produce system has to be reintroduced, where the government will buy off this excess, take responsibility to process them, so that the farmers can make good earnings from this effort they have put into farming, rather than have so many of that being wasted. Because a lot of people prefer to take advantage of the farmers, buy off most of their products, and keep it until that period when the price has completely gone up, and start selling it, which does not put much money in the pockets of the farmers.
All right, let's go to Kaduna, where Bello Abdullahi is still joining us in the studio. Mr. Abdullahi, let's look at agriculture, like we've talked about here in the north. Knowing that the north has a very large expanse of land, land that are, for most people, wasting. What can the government, especially those in the north and the federal government, do to ensure food security, to be able to attain food security in Nigeria and avoid all the waste that the country experiences year in, year out?
I think what needs to be done is to enhance the value chain, and I think the government has observed this, and money has been reserved so that the value chain will be enhanced. In fact, there are, I think, about 11 airports that have been converted to cargo airports, so that in the near future these products can even be exported. Along this line, government has brought out the policy that agriculture needs to be profitable, viable, and modernized. And in this process, I think even state governments need to complement this effort. The large landmass in the north cannot fully be utilized by the ordinary farmer. Mechanized agriculture needs to be put in place, just the same way as was done by Governor Saraki in Kwara State. The value chain can be enhanced through this process, because these farmers, the large-scale farmers, bring in innovation, they bring modernity, and they bring profitability. And in the same way, the small-scale farmer can benefit from all this, and in fact can even aspire to export these products. I think that mechanization of this agricultural sector will indeed bring about food security and profitability of the agricultural enterprise.
All right, Mr. Bello Abdul Hamid, I still want to come to you, because I understand when the Honorable was speaking, he spoke about, less farming taking place in the villages, and this could be the result of urban centers and people moving over to the cities. Now, let's look at the cities, for instance. Let's look at our urban centers. We know that aside from agriculture, we have a lot of untapped industry in Nigeria. As it is, I think in one of the major production industries, we have Aliko Dangote, who is one of the major resource production person, and I'm sure that Nigeria has the land space and of course the workforce to actually have more industries and more infrastructures. Ajokoja is there, nothing is happening. So let's look at making more industries in Nigeria and employing hands, especially for those who are educated. What do you think can be done in making this possible, especially in the urban centers, even though people want to migrate to them? How possible is it to make this a reality?
Well, it is possible, but it takes investment. The government definitely cannot do it alone. There needs to be an enabling environment so that investors will come in and industries will be put in place to utilize our agricultural products, so that there will be less waste. It is not government's business to set up businesses, but it needs to provide the enabling environment so that these businesses can be put in place and they will flourish. I think this is very possible. The government needs to be proactive about this.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Abdul Hamid. Honorable, I'm going to come to you now. Let's look at the judiciary in the last 12 months. How would you describe the judiciary under the present administration? Many have seen a lot of corruption in the last 12 months. In fact, the world has said that in the last 12 months, Nigeria has seen the biggest kind of corruption ever. Nigeria is right now, to speak, I think the 9th in the cadre of the most corrupt countries in the world. Let's look at what the executive is doing to make sure to tame this growing monster called corruption.
It's a difficult one for me, being a lawyer. And I will say that in the real sense of it, what the most the executive can do is to allow anti-corruption agencies to investigate our judges.
Okay.
For the purpose of finding out the corrupt ones amongst them. And the executive also should have the responsibility of appointing people with integrity. But that is as far as you can go on that for now. because you find out that, in all honesty, it is still some of these executive people competing and contesting for power who end up corrupting these judges. Because once their cases are before them, they start throwing mountains of dollars and naira on them. And those who don't have much shock absorber will begin to receive it. So it becomes then more difficult for the same executive that bribe their way in to power to turn around and start sanctioning the same judiciary that they helped to corrupt. But I think the judiciary can self-cleanse itself.
Why do you say that?
Because only they can cleanse themselves.
Okay.
And if they don't cleanse themselves, the kind of cleansing they will get will be very drastic. Because I would say the judiciary is as corrupt as the police. The judiciary is as corrupt as INEC. The judiciary is as corrupt as any other corrupt institution in this country. There is need for us to focus the satellite of the anti-corruption agencies on the judiciary.
But, considering the fact that it was, this administration that things of course have skyrocketed, and you're talking about leaders with integrity, how well do you think that the president has done in, choosing and of course electing people of integrity and honor into those offices? Because, it starts from the top, like they always say. So how well do you think this has worked in collaboration as a circle?
Well, if you start with the Supreme Court for a start, you'll notice that there is this hierarchy that is being followed, which has never really been disrupted.
Okay.
So it's like the last serving judge retires, the one coming next to him takes over.
Okay.
There hasn't been much meddlesomeness by the executive. But I would challenge the executive that for the purpose of bringing sanity, they should be able to meddle. They have the powers to meddle.
Okay.
They should stretch hands and find people of proven integrity from the bar to be appointed judges, from the intellectual committee to be appointed judges. Because people think that this process of succession is the best way to do it. And I say no. Even in America, you can pick anybody from anywhere to become a Supreme Court judge. If you may recall, Elias was picked up as a lecturer at University of Lagos, straight into the Supreme Court. He was Attorney General under Obasanjo. And when Obasanjo was leaving, he appointed him straight to the Supreme Court. I don't see why a Femi Falana, for instance, cannot be appointed straight to the Supreme Court, so that you create something different, something new from what you see. And that will help to change the process. Like I have advocated that we should appoint a non-police officer as Inspector General of Police, because it's a political appointment.
All right, Honorable, I think we'll know why Femi Falana will not become a Chief Justice of this country.
But you can only be one of the 13 judges.
Okay, all right, before we go, because we have to round off, now you do know that the President said recently that everyone found guilty or who has been indicted in the fuel subsidy regime probe will be brought to book. Doesn't this say that the presidency might be serious about the issue of corruption? Yeah. Briefly, we've got to go.
Having already said that, we definitely believe that the president's word will not be in vain, because that transfers the whole responsibility back to EFCC. Because if Mr. President says that anybody found guilty will be prosecuted, and he says, EFCC, I give you a free hand to do your job, he's done his bit. Unless and until EFCC comes to prove to us that there is meddlesomeness on the part of the presidency. If the EFCC doesn't do that, Mr. President has discharged the duties on him, which is to shift the responsibility fully and back to the anti-corruption agencies. I'm sure if they do their own bit, Nigeria will be on its path to honor. All
right, Honorable, I think I'll hold you in that frame of thought because we are running out of time. I'll go straight to Kaduna. Sir, please, in your own word, just one word, what would be your message to the Nigerian people today that is Democracy Day? One word.
Nigerians should keep the faith. It is just 1 year. We have 3 more years to go. Development will come.
indeed development will come. Your final word.
A little more patience. We have only had 1 year. We should challenge the president a little bit more.
Right.
But let's keep him on his toes to discharge the promises he has given.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable, for coming. We've had Honorable Uche Onyagucha, former member, House of Reps, joining us today, and Mr. Bello Abdul Hamid also joining us from the Kaduna studios. He has said, let's put the president on his toes and put a little more patience from the Nigerian people. Happy Democracy Day to everybody out there watching. This is Kaakaki, the African Voice, and we will be right back at the top of the hour time for Pan Africa. Stay with us.
Great day starts with an answer's not fine.
Budgeting. Questions such as, do we need an NMP in the first place, must be asked. My view, we don't.
There is the ability to ensure all operations regarding arrest and all that is conducted in the usual manner.
Engaging emerging topical issues in the polity.
The mere fact that we pay for 24 million liters of petrol on a daily basis, which is not, is shocking. And I think by now people should be resigning their appointment.
It's supposed to be a business, but it has become another arm of government, and it's also suffering from the malaise that have disabled government in Nigeria.
We want a good Nigeria first.
People that are benefiting at the IOC. Why? Because they have a tax regime, a royalty regime that was framed over 42 years ago.
Still with Morocco. Surely. Explore Africa. Encounter Africa.
Engage Africa.
Enjoy Africa's compelling,
exciting,
and breathtaking
experience
with Kaakaki,
the African Voice.
Now listen. The law is now beyond argument that the effect of a nullification of a thing, not necessarily an election, the effect of nullification of a thing is to completely wipe out, obliterate, remove, undo, erase, or render it ineffective.
Why must Nigerians pay the crime that has been perpetrated by the Kaakaki?
Show, VOS International.
I think the congregation tonight should be a period for celebration of the incoming, the end of the legal year, the beginning of the legal year, yet a period also for sober reflection.
We have signed into law several legislations whose implementation will help us provide the service delivery that you expect of us and raise the standard of life.
The Bisi Olakilo Show, VOS International.
I'll give you all the finest things in life. You are the angel of my life, the love of my life. I love my baby, that's my baby. I'll treat my baby right.
Viewers all over the world have made the Bisi Olakilo Show, VOS International, the first choice on their TV dials every week. The Bisi Olakilo Show, VOS International.
Time out with TA.
It's
also a party.
Look, see, I know they get no longer, so I don't want friendship way longer. With me today, tomorrow I'm stronger.
Time Out with TA. It's the variety comedy show everyone is talking about. Catch your favorite celebrities on Wine with TA. It's refreshing, revealing, and ridiculously hilarious.
Stay with me, dear, with me, cause you love me, I will be your...
Time Out with TA.
The new month of the new year usually comes with a lot of challenges for so many people. Nigerians are not left behind.
Thanks for staying with us. If you've just joined us, happy Independence Day. Happy Democracy Day, I beg your pardon, to you out there. It's time now for Pan-Africa World. The government of Israel has restated its commitments to deepening diplomatic relations with Nigeria. Israel ambassador to Nigeria, Moshe Ram, says this is in fulfillment of Israel's foreign policy and moral obligations to partner with others. The ambassador, who spoke in Abuja on the 20th anniversary of diplomatic relations between Israel and Nigeria. The Deputy President of the Nigerian Senate, Ike Ekweremadu, has condemned the mob attack on the head of Mali interim government, Diokonda Toure. Ekweremadu, who doubles as the Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, described the attack as a slight on democracy and the authority of ECOWAS. Ekweremadu made the condemnation in his closing address at the 2012 first ordinary session of the Community Parliament in Abuja, the Nigerian capital. Senator Ekweremadu also called for a review of the ECOWAS Supplementary Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance to provide sanctions for coup plotters in the region. A large explosion hit the center of the Kenyan capital Nairobi on Monday, wounding several people. There have been several blasts in Kenya since it sent troops to Somalia last year to check the activities of Al-Shabaab insurgents. The powerful explosions shook buildings in the surrounding area of most streets, and the evacuation of victims has commenced immediately. All right, that's Pan-African World. Kaakaki will continue in a moment. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
Every day, our hands pick up germs.
If it was you that lost your brother, would you do it?
Family ties, a thorn in the flesh.
To be seeing my daughter every day is not small money.
Your daughter, when he's concerned, my pocket is never afraid.
Oh, well.
I will do everything. And then I
Sky. Yeah, I don't like anything that has to do with jazz.
It's a fight. Okay, we told you earlier that we will be joining the president as he brings us a speech as Nigeria celebrates Democracy Day. I think it's time now to do that. Stay with us.
When General Abdulsalami Abubakar handed over the baton of authority to President Olusegun Obasanjo in 1999, it was the turning point for Nigeria. We did not arrive at that turning point by accident. Many Nigerians laid down their lives for the transition to democracy to occur. Some were jailed. Media houses were attacked and shut down. But the people's resolve was firm and unshakable. This is what we remember. This is what we celebrate. on this day, I recall especially the martyrdom of Chief MKO Abiola, whose presumed victory in the 1993 presidential election and death while in custody proved to be the catalyst for the people's pro-democracy uprising. The greatest tribute that we can pay to him and other departed heroes of Nigeria's democracy is to ensure that we continue to sustain and consolidate our democratic institutions and processes and keep hope alive. Let us individually and collectively continue to keep the spirit of this day alive. No task is more important. We must continue to do well as a people and as a democracy. We must remember where we are coming from so we can appreciate how far we have traveled. When I assumed office president in 2010, on account of the health challenges suffered by late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, there was so much anxiety in the land. The tone of public debate was febrile. Some persons sought to use the situation in the country to sow the seeds of discord. My primary task at that time was to do all that was humanly possible to ensure stability within the polity. With the support and commitment of patriotic Nigerians from all walks of life and the grace of the Almighty God, we were able to do so. On May 6, 2010, following President Yar'Adua's death, I assumed office as substantive president. I subsequently presented myself as a candidate for the 2011 presidential election with a promise that under my watch, the elections will be free, fair, and credible. We kept faith with that promise. On May 29, 2011, I was sworn in as president, the fifth elected leader of Nigeria since independence. The success of the 2011 election and the international acclaim that it generated was due to your patriotic zeal and commitment. I'd like to seize this opportunity to thank all patriotic Nigerians who stood by us and have remained unwavering in their support. These Nigerians understand one thing, that we all have a duty to protect and promote our country, and that this country belongs to all of us. The electoral contest is about values. We must not lose sight of those values that strengthen us as a people. As long as I am president, I will do my utmost to continue to work hard in pursuit of the common good. There are challenges, yes, but we are working hard to address those challenges, and by God's grace, we will succeed. My confidence is bolstered by the results which we have achieved in different sectors within the last 12 months. Our democracy is stable. Its foundation is strong and firm. Its future is bright. Last year, we had spoken about the policy of one man, one vote, one woman, one vote, one youth, one vote. I am glad to see that the Nigerian people in all elections have continued to respect the principle of fair play. Since this administration came into office, we have gone to great lengths to strengthen our democratic institutions, particularly the Independent National Electoral Commission. There are still persons who believe that elections should be violent and unhealthy, but they are in the minority. They will not derail our democracy because the majority of Nigerians will not allow them to do so. Following the spate of violence in some parts of the country after the 2011 elections, our administration set up a committee on post-election violence to, among other things, investigate the causes and nature of electoral violence and make appropriate recommendations. We will be guided by the white paper on that committee's report in dealing more firmly with electoral violence and fraud. This will include the establishment of Electoral Offences Tribunal to deal speedily with established cases of electoral violence. We cannot afford to treat the success we have recorded with our democratic experience with levity. Electoral reforms is central to our administration's transformation agenda. I urge all political parties to embrace this reform. Our successful elections last year opened new vistas for Nigeria's foreign policy. More than ever before, Nigeria's achievements have generated a lot of international goodwill and recognition. We have continued to build on this by further showing leadership in the sub-region and the African continent. Under my watch as chairman of the sub-regional body, ECOWAS, and subsequently, Nigeria was in the forefront of the efforts to ensure democratic stability in Niger, Mali, Guinea-Bissau, and particularly at a critical moment in Côte d'Ivoire. Our foreign policy process has proven to be dynamic and proactive. Nigeria's place is secure among many friends in the Committee of Nations. We are building on that friendship to open up opportunities for foreign investment in the Nigerian economy and to provide necessary support for the vibrant community of Nigerians in the diaspora. We will continue to work hard to turn domestic success into a source of motivation for greater achievements in the international arena. We are fully aware that it is only when our people are happy and confident that they will be in a good position to work toward relating with others. Today, I want to talk about what we are doing and what we have done. I want to reassure you that we are making progress, but we can also do a lot more. We must and we will. Our economic outlook is positive. When I assumed office last year, there were still fears about the impact of the global economic recession and implications for investment. Many Nigerians were worried about the growing rate of unemployment. In order to set Nigeria on a sound and path towards economic growth, this administration unveiled a set of priority policies, programs, and projects encapsulated in the transformation agenda. These programs and policies are aimed at consolidating our budget, fostering job creation, engendering private sector-led inclusive growth, and creating an enabling environment for businesses to thrive for the ultimate betterment of the lives of Nigerians. Today, progress has been made. The country's credit rating is positive, in contrast with many nations being downgraded. In 2011, our economy grew by 7.45%. As of mid-May 2012, our foreign exchange reserves are risen to $37.02 billion, the highest level in 21 months. We have stabilized and improved our fiscal regime. We brought the fiscal deficit down to 2.85% of GDP from 2.9% in 2011. We reduced recurrent expenditure from 74% to 71% and reduced domestic borrowing from 852 billion naira in 2011 to 744 billion naira in 2012. We cut down over 100 billion naira of non-essential expenditure and increased our internally generated revenue from 200 billion to 467 billion. For the first time in over a decade, we now have a draft trade policy which provides a multi-dimensional framework to boost our trade regime and facilitate the inflow of investment. We have generated over 6.6 trillion naira worth of investment commitments. The total value of our trade is also much higher than the value estimated the previous year due to deliberate government policies. To facilitate the ease of doing business in Nigeria, we have the policy in place to make visa procurement easier for foreign investors with safeguards to prevent abuse. The goal of our administration is to ensure that every Nigerian can find gainful employment. Given my dissatisfaction with the prevailing unemployment situation in the country, our administration has embarked on an ambitious strategy of creating jobs and job creators through the launch of several initiatives mainly targeted at the youth and women. In October 2011, we launched the Youth Enterprise with Innovation in Nigeria program designed to encourage entrepreneurship and provide grants for small and medium-scale enterprises. Over 1,200 Nigerian youths have benefited from this initiative. We have also launched the Public Works Women and Youth Empowerment Program, which is designed to employ 370,000 youths per annum, with 30% of the jobs specially reserved for women. Let me make it clear here that our YouWin program is designed to nurture and mentor young entrepreneurs to become major players, employers, and wealth creators in business. We are gradually reducing the footprint of government in business activities through privatization, liberalization, and deregulation based on our recognition that the private sector should be the engine of growth in our economy. To ensure that the private sector is well positioned for this task, our administration has embarked on key structural reforms in the power sector and at the ports. To improve reliable power supply, our administration is judiciously implementing the power sector roadmap, which is at an advanced stage to fully privatize power generation and distribution while reducing the cost of electricity to rural households and the urban poor. The commitment of this administration to the provision of regular and uninterrupted power supply remains strong and unwavering. We all agree that adequate and regular power supply will be the significant trigger to enhance this nation's productive capacity and accelerate growth. It is for this reason that I remain optimistic that the reforms we have initiated, the decisions we have taken so far, and the plans we intend to faithfully prosecute will yield the desired results. To underline this commitment, 3 weeks ago, I convened a special session on power and gave specific instructions on the fast-tracking of gas production and delivery to ensure improved availability of power. I also directed that the power sector reform must continue on schedule and that privatization of the sector must be completed according to plan. Our approach is two-pronged. First is the immediate repair of power plants as well as transmission and distribution infrastructure in the short term. The second is the building of institutions and the provisions of enablers to attract investors. We have revived and are accelerating the completion of the National Integrated Power Projects. We are also building about 4,000 kilometers of transmission lines and hundreds of substations. We have completed the design for the construction of both Mambila and Zungeru hydropower plants, which will add about 3,000 megawatts to the national grid. By mid-2010, the national power output was about 2,800 megawatts. By the end of 2011, we reached a peak of more than 4,000 megawatts. The National Gas Emergency Plan has also the problem of gas supply, which arose essentially due to poor planning. For long-term power availability, we have strengthened a number of key institutions, such as the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, the Bulk Trader, the National Power Training Institute of Nigeria, and others. We are also working with the World Bank to provide guarantees for gas and power providers. The signing of MOUs with world leaders in power equipment, General Electric of USA and Siemens of Germany, as well as US and China Exim Banks for financial investment, is a clear indication of the level of confidence which the world investment community has in our power sector roadmap. In addition, the privatization program has attracted expression of interest from 131 companies across the globe. Our decision to bring in the private sector is clearly intended to achieve our targets of generating and distributing sufficient and reliable power within the shortest time possible. With the measures we have put in place, we will surely achieve success in transforming the power sector. We have also focused on efforts on ports and custom reforms to ensure efficiency in the handling of ports and port-related businesses. Our administration has streamlined bureaucratic activities at the port by reducing the number of agencies from 14 to 7. We have also reduced the time for the clearance of goods from about a month to 7 days, with the long-term objective of ensuring that cargoes are cleared within 48 hours in line with international best practice. In the meantime, our ports, for the first time, now open for 24 hours business. In the oil and gas sector, our administration has chartered a new course that will ensure enduring transparency and accountability. We are redrafting the petroleum industry bill to ensure it meets the aspirations of all stakeholders, given the current realities and future expectations in the global energy landscape. Work on the PIB will be concluded in June this year and formally submitted to the National Assembly. Additionally, special task forces dealing with governance and control, petroleum revenue, and national refineries are finalizing their work to ensure probity across the oil and gas sector and self-sufficiency in refined petroleum products. In the downstream sector, the Nigerian Content Development Act, since inception in 2010, has boosted the local production of line pipes, in-country fabrication tonnage, and engineering support services. As a result, retained in-country spend has grown from approximately $1 billion to a current estimate of $4 billion, and over $3 billion foreign direct investment has been brought in for upgrading and building new yards, altogether generating over 120,000 direct and indirect jobs. Capacity utilization of existing domestic refineries has greatly improved from 30 to 60%. We have commenced the phase plan to return the refineries to 90% capacity utilization, with the expected completion of the rehabilitation of Port Harcourt refinery by the end of 2012, to be followed by Warri and Kaduna refineries in 2013. In the upstream sector, the April 2012 commissioning of the Ocean Deep offshore field has increased crude oil production capacity by 180,000 barrels per day. Also, government continues to support our own national oil company, the National Oil Company of Nigeria, by assigning 55% equity in 8 divested blocks, which has resulted in increasing in reserves from 350 million barrels to 2.1 barrels and 160,000 barrels of production. We have also made significant progress in gas infrastructure development, investing close to $1 billion for the construction of some 1,000 kilometers of pipelines, gas supply growth, and stimulation of gas industrialization. Between now and the third quarter of 2013, final investment decisions will be made on gas-based industries such as the petrochemicals and fertilizer plants at Cocoa, the central processing unit in Obiafo, Obricom, and the gas growth projects. Also, the sum of 11 billion naira is provided in the 2012 budget for hydrocarbon exploration in the Lake Chad Basin. The Gas Revolution Initiative will fully support and sustain domestic power while creating Africa's largest gas-based industrial park, which on completion will underpin the creation of over 1 million jobs and attract over $16 billion in foreign direct investments. To protect the gains of these initiatives for all Nigerians, we are aggressively addressing the increasing incidence of crude oil theft and other criminal activities in the sector. As a deliberate move, our goal is to transform Nigeria from a monomodal economy to a diversified one. The sector that we are focusing on to diversify our economy, and one in which Nigeria has huge comparative advantage, is the agriculture sector. Agriculture accounts for about 40% of our GDP and over 70% of all employment. Increases in agricultural productivity will drive down rural poverty and revive our rural economy. In this regard, we are aggressively pursuing an agricultural transformation agenda. Agriculture is no longer a development program. We are now treating agriculture